Welcome back to McCarthy Performance. We are starting on the 565 supercharged big block 360 dart heads, brand new dart big M's billet cap block. Um, these heads were bought ready to go. They have been reworked. We're not going to get into the reworking of them or the quality of any of that. The valve job appears to be decent. Uh, we replaced the original exhaust valves with Inconel. We put titanium valves in, replaced the standard stainless valves. This is a drag race only effort. This engine will be making probably roughly around 1600 horse. It's not really getting boosted that hard. We have some pistons that I have to pin fit. There'll be machining done to the block. We're going to reassemble the heads. The springs appear to be a dual Urson spring, which is an E9151560. I've used that spring a couple times and other applications. It holds out good. I don't know who makes it. I usually use a pack spring. These came with brand new valve springs, so we're going to reinstall the valve springs that were on it. Should be plenty good enough for the application. Yeah, valve job, and it's a fresh valve job. I don't lap the valves. I put marker dye on them, put them in, turn them a little bit. Nice clean seat all the way around. No reason to revisit that. It's in the correct location. Same way with the exhaust valves. The guides feel good. They've heads have been worked over, and some guides have been replaced, some haven't. But for what we're doing, they'll be fine. So we're going to lube up the valves, install the springs, and that's what this video will be about, starting on the 565 supercharged engine. Um, we'll see how it all goes. Hopefully the connecting rods will be here tomorrow. They'll be using aluminum connecting rod. I have a crawler crankshaft that'll get balanced for the rotating mass. Um, Thank you for watching. Head's been cleaned. Like I said, these were all done, machined. The guy bought them this way. So we're gonna just run some brushes through the guides with lacquer thinner. It'll wipe off the seats, wipe down the valve stems. Everything looks really clean. So I'm not gonna run them through the washer. There's really no need in it. Everything never. These heads were never ran after they've been reworked. So everything looks pretty good. We'll get the dye off the seats. Make sure they're good and clean. There's no grit on them. Like I said, I don't lap titanium. There's no lapping compound on the seats, so I don't have to worry about that. There's just some red marker dye from layout to see where the seats were riding, and I'm happy with where they are at. There's no need to go back through that. Decks a little bit. Yeah, coming out clean. You rub on iron hard, you usually get a little gray off of it. These are iron seats. I ran titanium on iron seats before. I mean, ideally, would it be nice to have beryllium or a copper seat? Yeah, it would be, but we're not going to do that. Wet down the guides, and now we got all that wiped down. They look good and clean inside there. I'll show you on these older 360s. I don't know if a lot of you guys have seen this, but when Dart did these heads, that's an integrated guide. That's part of the head. And what they did was they machined them and then put a bronze guide liner in them. And it works, you know. What can you say about that? The newer heads, they put bronze guides in them, but the older ones are like this, and we're not going to redo everything just because of that. You know, they ran long enough to be blown up a couple times and fixed, so I don't see that there's really that's going to be a problem or one of the major concerns. So we're going to clean up the valves. Of course, we will lube them quite well before we put them in. These are brand new. These are made in Russia, supposedly. They seem to be a decent valve. I've used them in a couple engines and they hold up pretty well. I'm only stating that just because if you've never seen one coated like that, that's where I was told they come from. You know, I don't know if you still can get them or not. I don't want to get into the politics of where stuff comes from, because lately it don't seem to matter where it's coming from. It's all a gamble. But I've had pretty good luck with them valves. And these are revs. It's inch 900, I believe. Inch 900 Inconel. Of course, what you always want to do is you always want to check your seal. These seals are from the original guide where it stops to the top of that. It's usually about 200 thousandths. So we want to make sure that from our seal to our bottom of our retainer or whatever sticks out, which is usually the retainer. Locks usually don't stick out, but you want to measure whatever that is. So we're going to make sure we're at 0. You don't need nothing too sophisticated for this job. So we got 852 thousandths, which is not good. We'll have to revisit the cam and make sure. With this kind of spring pressure, you know, they say, you know, I go by rule of thumb 60 thousandths, but realistically, you've got 200 thousandths almost in the seal. So if it crashes, it's going to hit the seal. You know, obviously you don't want to do that, but you know, how much running clearance do you need on a triple or a dual or a triple? When you're talking over 800 open pressure to float the valve to hammer it to the seal, chances are you're going to have other things that poke up. So I'm going to check this again, make sure we're, yeah, better check it a couple times, and I usually do. Make sure everything's off. We're saying we almost got 870 now. So getting back to how much clearance, well, if I had 40 thousandths between here, you know, so I figure out my cam lift and everything, and I've got 40 thousandths plus, I'm going to let it fly. I'm not going to have a problem with that. So I'm going to check what the lift of the cam is because it's a used cam, and make sure the cam is marked correctly for the box, and figure out what the running lash is going to be, and then subtract the actual lift of the cam. And if we've got 40 thousandths, 40 to 35 thousandths, I'm going to put it together. So what we've got going on here is we're using cups, and I've found some cups. I don't have enough, but I'll order some more. We'll get going on these heads. The valve for the exhaust side was a shelf rev valve. Ideally, it would be great if it was 100 thousandths shorter. The exhaust, the intake, of course, is going to be a shorter push rod. So this being a longer assembled height, it is what it is. You know, we'll be putting a lash cap, of course, on this. I don't want to get too far ahead of my skis, so to speak. So we don't have the assembled height with that spring. That spring is a 2-inch assembled height. It'd be ideally a 2/100 spring. Pack makes a spring. There's a couple other companies. Actually, Urson makes a spring that's a little taller. They're going to be about $600, and I don't think he's going to want to do that. It's just a question of shimming, and I don't want to shim out too far with this. I'd like it to set in the cup, and right now what I've got is I've got a 15,000 shim under the cup, using a standard lock, and I've got some 50 locks that are minus, not plus, so it'd bring me down 50 thousandths. But with a standard lock, and these are older than dirt. These come out of my 573. I had Bill Mitchell make these when I had my 861 bow tie heads in my car. They just so happened with the standard locks, and these are 10 degree. Everything sets up good. So that's what we're going to do. And these didn't have any miles on them, so they're not all chewed up. Now he's got some of his retainers are really chewed up, but I happen to have a half a set of comp. And that's what them are, comps. There was a bunch of companies that were making them for putting their names on them. But anyhow, we're going to put these on here. We're going to get basically 2 inches of assembled height. and these fit and they don't wobble, and that's 10 degree obviously. It just looks funny because it's a straight across retainer. It'll work fine. Never had a problem with my 573. Uh, Anyhow, so that's what we're going to do. It's kind of you know, getting used stuff and getting stuff that somebody's already started can really be a pain in the ass. A lot of times it's just better to start with a fresh piece of paper. Um, I don't, I'm trying to save things where, you know, time becomes money. Uh, I could have just ordered some two 100 assembled height springs and just gone through and been done with this. But I'm trying to do him a favor, but in the long run, it's really not doing me a favor. So, six of one, half dozen another. So we're going to start assembling these and we'll get going on them. So I just pulled the used cam off the shelf and looked in the box, and the box doesn't jive with the camshaft numbers that are written on the box. So everything's in our favor, and depending on if he's got the other cam in the wrong box. So assuming that the cam is in the box that he wants to use, we're going to need 754. So we want to be at around 800 here, and we've got plenty of that. We've got 876, so we're good there. So we're going to check the intake, and yeah, I can cut these down. That's not a problem, but I don't really want to do that. These heads were set up supposedly, he felt, for the cam that he wanted to run. So I'm not going to make up any excuses. I mean, I most certainly should have checked this before we got to this point, but if I had to take them apart and clean them and get all the oil off them and cut them and put them back together, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But I was assuming, and you know what they say about that, that we were going to be okay for assembled height with, of course, the old valves, which these valves are a little longer, so I kind of figured that'd work in my favor. So we'll check this and see where we're at. We've got 870. So if we use the big cam, we subtract the lash, from the lift. Yeah, we've got 60 thousandths. And if we use the cam that's in the box that's wrong, we would have over 70 thousandths subtracting the lash. So depending on which cam, we're good for either one. So we can put them together the way they are. I don't have to cut nothing. Everything should be good to go, and we'll start assembling them. These retainers I'm going to replace. I've got better ones that are virtually brand new. These are all, somebody ran a triple on these, and they were biting right into them. It's a dual now. That's never going to be used, but yeah, they look like butt. I just assume put some better ones on there. Make it better to sleep at night and not have to worry about anything. So we'll start assembling them up. So we got the exhaust on. Now we're going to try to put the intake on. She's pretty much set up where I want it to be. These little springs aren't too bad. I clamped the head on the table. Anything over 260 on the seat, I put it in my machine, but actually this is quicker. So, that's why I'm doing it this way. Don't ever try to attempt to put springs like this on a head unless you got it bolted to the table. That's my recommendation. I got a little piece of rubber so that spring compressor don't tear up the face of the valve. And we'll try not to shoot this thing to Mars, but no guarantee. These things can be a real chore, even though they're not the big springs. I'll have to adjust it here. Hang on a second here. You don't ever want to squeeze the trigger and get your finger caught between the retainer and the spring. I've done that. That hurts. This should work a little better now. Okay. Okay. I'm going to continue with this. I don't know. We're going to probably, this video ain't going to be very long today. I'm not in the groove, so to speak. So we're down to the last spring on this head. I have the spring where I want it to be orientated to the retainer. Usually I don't like them to hook into the retainer. This one's pretty much together, and thank you for watching my videos, and hope I didn't bore you to death and you learned something. But anyways, thanks.